welcome to Overtime Hockey Talk. My name is Mark Paul. My co-host Justin Baker is here with me, and on today's show, we are ranking the top 10 Toronto Maple Leafs of all time.
Right in your wheelhouse.
Right in my wheelhouse. This is like my 12-year-old's dream, my 12-year-old self's dream. I don't have a 12-year-old.
That's a sad dream, just to rank the Maple Leafs.
Well, to talk about them. But yeah, I mean, I have very small dreams.
I just got to give you shit.
Someday I'm going to grow up and rank the Maple Leafs. That's yes, it's a sad existence, but somebody's got to do it. So I've taken that burden upon myself, and here we are ranking the Maple Leafs. Remember the rules. If you haven't listened to any of our other ranking shows, if you want to, go back, listen to them. We've ranked more than half the teams throughout the league. We will continue doing this throughout the season, as we love our lists here at Overtime Hockey Talk. If you've been around for any amount of time, you know that we are the king of list podcasts. So that's one thing. I don't hear other people do podcasts. I'm like, just, hey, here's the top this, here's the top that, and like where they're listing things out. And I really enjoy it. I would actually like if other people did that, because I kind of get a little tired of listening to especially midway through a season, where it's like, okay, another podcast talking about this guy's suspension and this trade, and like all that's well and good. And of course we do that, but I really enjoy doing these lists. I think it's a lot of fun.
So I love them too, but here's a call to action to anybody else who has a podcast listening. Come on the show and you can do a list with us.
Yeah, that's a great idea, especially if you do a team, like an individual team podcast. We'd love to have you on. I suppose if we've already ranked your team, then you're just SOL, but there's like 13 other teams, so get on it.
Get on it.
We haven't ranked like the
Philadelphia Flyers.
That's true. We haven't.
Yeah, there's a lot of Flyer podcasts out there. I can tell you that.
Crap ton of Flyers.
Broad Street Bullies.
That's right.
You name it.
So, with that said, let's jump into our top 10 list. And as we usually do, let's start with the guys that just missed our list. Justin, take us away.
Wow.
There's a lot of them.
There is, actually. Yeah, there were a lot of quality players in here that I had a tough time just scratching my head like, why do I have to leave these people off? Because, well, because
they'd be on almost any other team's top 10.
I know. Yeah, there were a lot of really good Maple Leaf players. Anyways, so my just miss is probably my largest list. I have Freddie Anderson on there.
Okay.
Goaltender extraordinaire.
I suppose, if they go, I mean, all this goes out the door if they win the cup with their current core.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. Like, you're going to see a few of those guys probably creep onto this list then.
In a few years, for sure.
If they do win a cup, yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone will forget about Wendell Clark and Doug Gilmour.
Yeah, for real. Charlie Conacher, George Armstrong, and Red Kelly.
George Armstrong, I think, played the most games in Leafs history. And, yeah.
Yeah, and Frank Malkovich, too. Made my just
Mahovlich?
Yeah, is that how you pronounce it?
Malkovich. Yeah, it's Frank Mahovlich.
Thank you.
It's okay. We'll forgive you for that.
I don't type things very well, so...
No problem. Okay, well, this should be an interesting list. My just miss, I have Turk Broda, who leads the team in wins he has over 300 wins. He did win 5 Stanley Cups, and he just missed it. Like, he's actually my 11th, so he really did just miss it. I just think the time when he played, it's kind of that, like, he was winning cups during World War II, and the league was really, really desperate for talent. So it's that's just, it's kind of a barren time. So I maybe weigh that a little bit less. He's one of 6 goalies in the league, so
that's fair.
Yeah. Granted, I do have one goalie on here from the original 6 time period, but
good.
Yeah. So he misses the list. Sil Apps, he won the Calder Trophy for the Leafs. I think he's the only player to ever win the Calder Trophy, and he won the first one. And he actually is ranked as the second all-time best Maple Leaf by the Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
So the Maple Leafs have a list, and he's ranked number 2, but he misses my list, along with Teeter Kennedy, who is the 3rd most ranked player, or maybe he was like 5th or 6th, I can't remember. But he also was on their top 10. The Leafs ranked like their top 100 players. Even James Van Riemsdyk made the list.
Phil Kessel got on there too.
Yes, he did. As he should. Brian McCabe made the list, like somewhere in the 70s. So Not anywhere close to my just miss. One other guy that did miss my list is their first overall pick in 1985, Wendell Clark.
Ooh,
So
okay.
he misses the list. Love the way he played, but I just don't think he put up the kind of point totals over time. And yeah, anyways, let's dive into our lists and let's go with your number 10.
All right, number 10 is the guy who made your just missed, Turk Broda.
I believe his real name is Walter.
Is it really?
Yeah, Walter Broda.
That's impressive, actually. So Hockey Hall of Fame inductee in 67, 5-time Cup winner, 2-time Vezina winner. So he's got the hardware. He leads this team all time for wins. But again, the one knock on him is he played in an era where there were 6 other goalies, and that was pretty much it. So kind of held that against him, and maybe that's why he just came in at number 10 barely.
So
for me,
he's
but
my 11. He's your 10.
Yeah.
So, yeah. My number 10 is a guy who was on your just miss list, and that is Charlie Conacher.
Ooh.
He did play, obviously, like early. He was playing in like the 20s and the 30s, but he was his prime was before the war. So the NHL was actually in a pretty good place. He led the league in points twice, and this is before there was any Art Ross Trophy or Maurice Richard Trophy. He led the league in goals 5 times.
Impressive.
And so I think in terms of other Maple Leafs, I'm like, how can I don't think no Leaf has ever won the Art Ross Trophy.
Really?
I don't think
I ever
I'm pretty
realized
confident.
that.
I'm pretty confident in that fact.
I believe it.
So to me, if you have a guy who led the league in goals 5 times and points twice, it's hard for me to leave him off the list. And he was like ranked 3rd or 4th or something like that in the Maple Leafs all-time list. So hard for me to leave him off there, even though I left Sil Apps off there, who was the second. But
Yeah. That one I still can't believe.
but I mean, you do you think, okay, who's the best person in the league? If a guy leads the league in goals 5 years in a row, it wasn't a fluke.
No.
He's the best goal scorer in the league. So I'm going to give him the tip of the cap for that. You're number 9.
And number 9 for me, Dougie Gilmore.
Okay.
A guy who didn't play a lot of seasons with the Maple Leafs, but when he did, he was pretty
7.
explosive.
Played
Was
7.
it 7? I thought it was only 6.
I think it was 7.
Uh,
Maybe not like a complete 7, right? But
No, he played like 5.5. He got traded halfway through. But
yes, but you forget he came back.
that's true. He did come
And
back for
played
one
one
game.
year, one game. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's true. I guess he
Yeah.
really played more like the equivalent of 5 seasons, but
But early 90s, mid 90s guy for the Maple Leafs. Won a Selke. But what I look at it is his production, how good he was when he was with the Maple Leafs, because he didn't have a lot of talent around him to really, I mean, if you think about it, in a time where teams are starting to play that trap defense and starting to get a lot more tight defensively, he still exploded. One season, I think he had almost 95. He had 95 assists, so almost
he was
100.
like Joe Thornton. He had 127 points and 100 penalty minutes.
Yeah, even in the playoffs, one season he went in 93 when they went 21 games, so they went a little far. 35 points.
5
Yeah.
points. Yeah, that
Freaking
was
good.
They went 7 games, all 3 series.
Right.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that's unbelievable.
So
And
he
then-
showed up.
and then the next year in 18 games, he has 28 points. I mean, that's an unbelievable 2-year run in the playoffs.
Yeah,
In
for a guy that
39 games.
Doesn't win the cup.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
He did win it with Calgary, but I mean,
it's true. He did win it with Calgary, and he also in the year that they won it, he had 22 points in 22 games. So I mean, the guy was just. I mean, anyone who has more than a point per game in the playoffs, I mean, you just got to tip your cap to that guy.
yeah, 77 points in 52 playoff games for the Leafs.
And he
Showed
had
up.
in 182 playoff games, he had 188 points. Like even in the last year he made the playoffs, which is 01-02. So I mean, he's a grizzled veteran at this point. 10 points in 12 playoff games.
Yeah,
a guy
always
playing
showed
on
up.
like the third line. So definitely, he just you hear people talk about like advanced stats, and I'm sure that he'd be down the list at this point, in 01-02. He's not a guy that you're looking for to really push the needle much, but something magical happens to certain guys in the playoffs, and he was definitely one of them. I would agree with that. I have him a little higher on my list. But,
Okay, that's fair.
my number 9 is the second all-time goalie wins leader, and that is Johnny Bower. Won 4 Stanley Cups with the team. And was a part of the oldest goaltending tandem to win the cup. Him and It was a Jacques Plante. I think they won the cup in '67, and they
That
were
is
both in
correct.
their 40s.
Pretty old.
It's just incredible. But yeah, 219 wins. He also has the best save percentage of any goaltender in Leafs history at 922, and was just. I mean, he didn't start playing for the Leafs till he was 33 years old, but had an incredible career from that point on. And really, I mean, he became the reason why I have him on there and not Turk Broda, despite Broda playing more games on this, is I just think Johnny Bower was around for a time when things were more competitive, and so I'm gonna give him that. I'm gonna give him that nod for the competitive factor.
Like I said, don't hate it, but still like it. All right, so my number 8.
You're number 8.
Let's go. Tim Horton.
Hey, mine too.
All right.
We love the donuts at number 8.
We do love donuts, don't we?
I don't even know what he did as a player. All I know is that he made some freaking delicious donuts.
Yeah, so you make my list just for having good
just
donuts.
the donuts.
Dude.
You know, I thought about putting him at number 1 because in reality, more people know who Tim Horton is than anyone else on the Leafs ever.
I guess if you think of it that
I'll
way,
bet you
sure.
more people know who more people know Tim Hortons than they do most hockey players ever.
It's kind of sad. Your legacy is donuts and not hockey.
But he did play 20 seasons in the league, and 6 of those times he was on the All-Star team, like first
Yeah.
All-Star team coming out of there. I mean, that's impressive.
Doesn't hurt to have 5 Stanley Cups either.
No, it does not.
So
Yeah, just a rock solid defenseman, and even later into his career,
I'm sorry,
was
4 Stanley Cups.
4. Yeah, even later into his career was still so steady, and also was just. I mean, there's pictures of that guy with just stitches, and obviously a total badass. So, Tim Horton, 8 on the list. He's my second highest rated defenseman on this list, and my next one is right above him. At number 7 is Borje Salming.
Okay.
So you may have him higher on your list. I'm sure you have him on your list.
I do at number 6, actually.
Okay, so
We'll skip my number 7, and he's my number 6.
So I have him at number 7. I would have him higher. Obviously, this isn't his fault, but he did play for the team during some pretty bare years. I mean, the Leafs just were not very good in the 70s, barring the one year they happened to come back down 3-0 to the New York Islanders, and they won that series on a Lanny McDonald OT goal, I think it was, and that's kind of that 70s team's claim to fame as they beat the Islanders one time. But I mean, other than that, the most times he made the playoffs in the 70s was a 10 game, it was that year that they beat the Islanders. All the rest of the time they were losing in the first round. And so it was just not super productive in terms of the playoffs. Although a fantastic defenseman, and he kind of paved the way for a lot of European defensemen who he played a different way. I mean, he was kind of the European Bobby Orr, I guess.
I was going to say he's the poor man's Bobby Orr for sure.
Poor man, that works too.
Yeah. He definitely played a different type of game than what a lot of people were used to back then. And so,
Such a puck control game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can see having him higher on this list. I mean, the one thing that I didn't realize is that, I mean, he's 5th all time in penalty minutes too, which Horton is actually 4th all time. Who's tops? Ty Domi.
Of course. I was going to actually guess Tiger
Over
Williams, but
2,200 penalty minutes for this team. The guy scored 84 goals and had 2,265 penalty minutes. That's amazing.
Wow.
In 777 games. So he averaged 3 penalty minutes a game. It's like a fight every other game and a penalty the next one.
right.
But yeah, Borje Salming, my 7. He's your 6. So who's your 7?
My 7 is Ted Kennedy.
Okay, so you have him on your list.
No politicians here, but 5-time Cup winner. But he did win, which I don't know how many Leafs can actually make this claim, but he was a Hart Trophy winner.
You mean that guy on the wall?
That
right
guy?
there?
I did not notice that picture ever.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
I have I mean, I don't know why you would know, but I do have a collection of Stanley Cup goal scorers or Stanley Cup winning goal scorers, and Ted Kennedy did score the Stanley Cup winning goal in I can't remember which year, 61 or something like that, or 62, one of those years, sometime in the 60s.
51.
No, it was 50s.
51.
Yeah,
Let's go with that.
So he was elected in the Hall of Fame in 66. So yeah, that's definitely scored a big goal for the Leafs at one point.
Yeah, captain for the team for quite a bit.
And from what I've read about him, he was the workhorse, like hardest working guy, not necessarily the most talented, but by far the hardest working. Anyone you put with him succeeded because he just worked it so hard in the corners that it just left these guys open for.
Yeah, he knew how to put the puck in front of the net.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly.
So you're number 6.
Okay,
then.
my number 6. This might surprise you a little bit.
Okay.
It is Austin Matthews.
Really?
Number 6.
Wow. Yeah, that is
Yes.
quite shocking.
Yes, for all the incredible players to play on this team, I do indeed have Austin Matthews as my number 6. And
Please
here's
explain.
why. So, all right. Obviously, Matthews has played in 212 games. He already has 205 points, 111 goals. Which, in 3 seasons, he's 48th all time in goals right now. But I really think that, in the next 5 years,
I think in a decade he'll be number 1.
Next 5 years, we'll just say over this contract.
Okay.
My guess is that he averages about 40 goals a year. That
That's
would put him
ambitious.
another 200 goals. That puts him 5th all time in goals for the Leafs in the next 5 years. He is the best player to ever play for the Maple Leafs.
Wow.
Most talented player to ever play for the Leafs. It's no knock against guys that played for the Leafs in the 70s or the 60s or the 50s, but if you took Austin Matthews in his exact form right now and put him then, he would skate circles around guys. And that
Of
just kind of
course.
is what it is,
Yeah.
And so, I know his accolades are minimal, although, hey, his first year, guy comes into the league, scores 40 goals and wins the Calder Trophy. Oh, I lied. He won the Calder Trophy. Is the second Leaf to win the Calder Trophy.
I was going to say.
Still apps. Yeah, I forgot all about Austin Matthews. Good God. I'm putting him here as a preemptive strike because I really, I'm only going, this contract is all I know. I think he'll be there for the length of this contract. I also think he'll be there beyond the contract. But in 5 years, I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility that he averages 40 goals a year. And so, or even at 30 goals a year, he's that'd be 150 goals over the next couple of years, and
That puts him in the top 10.
that would still, that still puts him in the top 10 of goals. So he's going to be there, and you got to think about the amount of points that he'll rack up over that time too. Likely in the next 5 years, he gets 80, 90 points a year. Especially, you think point totals are going up. As long as he can
Let's
play
hope.
games.
Yeah.
As long as he can play games, which I don't think he's shown that he's
assuming he has
injury-prone or
some wingers to play with too,
I'm confident that he has some wingers to play with.
Well,
He's got
I mean-
William Nylander playing alongside of him. And
Let's hope that Babcock keeps Nylander playing alongside of him.
yeah, let's hope so. Okay, so he's he's kind of my dark horse in there. My number
Wow.
6. I'm putting him in there preemptively. Sorry, Wendell.
See, now I could have seen if maybe you made an argument for John Tavares, right? Because he's up there top 5 in terms of points per game, I believe. So
He's second, I think, in points per game.
okay, yeah. So
But John Tavares has only... Oh, he's 4th, sorry.
yeah,
John Tavares has only played
One season. right.
He had, one of the best seasons. 47 goals. Not
Yeah, and
too
as
many
long as
guys have
Marner's
more than...
on his wing, that's
couple
just gonna
15.
yeah.
So, okay, well, you're number 5.
My number 5, a guy who major just missed, Sil Apps.
Okay. Still
Yeah.
apps.
Again, yeah, he played in an era, World War II-ish, before and after, where there wasn't a ton of talent around the league, but he still was a guy that, consistently made Hart Trophy votes. He did win it once. No, I'm sorry, he didn't win it. My apologies. He won the Lady Byng,
Yes.
along with the Calder, and a 3-time Cup winner. Consistently, you look at lists across the internet anywhere, and he's in the top 10 in almost every single one of them.
That's true. Just not mine.
Just not Mark's.
Take that,
so too bad.
I don't think I have a picture.
No. Did he score a Cup winning goal?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
My number 5 is a guy who is a little lower on your list, but he ranks the highest all time in points per game for the Toronto Maple Leafs with 452 points in only 393 games, and that is Douglas Gilmour.
Douglas.
The man that Don Cherry kissed on the lips on Coach's Corner. Ooh. You can go look that one up. on YouTube. It'll be somewhere around there. And he had the best season of any Maple Leaf in terms of points and the best playoffs. And the guy was just outside his mind. Like the way that he played, just I think for so long, not anymore. The league's changed so much, but for so long, it was like, how do we find another guy like Doug Gilmour? Because he really was the prototypical like Toronto hockey guy. And I think even to this day, like Doug Gilmour is worshipped amongst Leafs.
He is.
Leafs folklore kind of thing. Like people love the guy. And I think
Ranker had him, I think, at like number 2.
Yes, Ranker.
So,
yeah. Now, see, the problem with Ranker is that Ranker is like, hey, it's probably the somewhere between 12 and 35-year-olds getting on. So, of course, they're voting the guy that maybe they heard about or watched as a kid.
Right.
Higher than their vote. Like, Borje Salming was like 15 on that list or something. Like
sad.
Yeah. So he's... And I actually... And who was it? Well, I think Austin Matthews was like 4 on that list.
Was he really?
Maybe. So, anyways, not that far off from my list, but yeah. So I have Doug Gilmour at 5, and who's your number 4? We're getting into these guys. We're gonna have to start probably being similar, but
no, this guy, he was a little further down on your list. Johnny Bower for me,
okay,
at number 4,
up there.
Yeah, I got him up there. I love this guy. Again, he's got the cups. He's got a couple Vezinas to his name. Second all-time in wins for this franchise here. But funny thing, when he was 36, this is what kind of pushed him a little higher on my list after I saw this little statistic. But when he was 36, he finished second in the Hart Trophy voting in between two just beautiful men. Bernie Geoffrion, who finished with the Hart Trophy that year with 95 points in a season. And then right below him, Gordie Howe at number 3. So... That's good company to be at, especially when you're 36 years old in goal.
Well, and when you're a goalie, just people kind of brush you off.
Yeah,
so those days, a goalie is up for a Hart Trophy, you know you had a freaking incredible season.
Yeah, he had some monster seasons. I mean, one season with a .932 save percentage, a .930, a .925. So this guy he stopped the puck, and that's what
like
it was
the
about.
1960s Tim Thomas.
There you go. I like it.
Became amazing later on in life. Well, my number 4 is a guy who has one of the most prestigious records in the history of the league. And that is the most points in one game. Daryl Sittler.
Ooh.
Had 10 points in one game. So Daryl Sittler is second all-time in points for the Leafs. He's, I think, second or third all-time in points per game. He's got more than a point per game. 916 points in 844 games. And unfortunately played again for a team that wasn't the greatest in terms of production, but in 1976-77, in 9 playoff games, he had 21 points.
Damn.
That's an incredible individual year in the playoffs, and he almost averaged a point per game in the playoffs. So I mean, it was really, and it's later in his career that kind of maybe messed
Flyers
that up a
always
bit.
screwing everything
the
up.
Flyers and the Red Wings and stuff later on.
Don't talk about my Red Wings. He got a point per game with them.
That's true. He did. He did.
It's the Flyers.
It was actually his like rookie season, and the year after that he didn't do super well. But then after that, he really takes over. So yeah, Daryl Sittler. I think when Leafs fans from the 70s think of the Leafs, then it's all about Daryl Sittler. And again, I mean, the guy has the most insane record. Like Wayne Gretzky has every record except that one.
Right.
It's the one he could never get.
I don't think anybody will touch that one.
6 goals and 4 assists in one game.
That's
the
tough.
closest anyone's gotten to that in the last like 35 years is Sam Gagner when he had 5 goals and 3 assists.
Right. Yeah, in Edmonton. I remember that. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, he'll have that one. That's why he's my number 3.
Okay.
So,
yeah, he's your number 3.
He is, yeah. Again, like you said, synonymous with the 70s, that era of Toronto Maple Leafs when they didn't have a lot of superstar power. And again, that's a record that's just going to, freak. There's that, and I think there's a lot of goaltending records too with like the Iron Man records, guys playing 500 games in a row, never get broken, stuff like that. So that's one that's going to hold up for quite a while, if anything. So for me, number 3, Daryl Sittler.
Okay. My number 3 is a guy who missed your list.
Okay, wow.
Don't know how Frank Mahovlich missed your list.
Yeah, missed it.
But he missed it. Now, so he I mean, over the course of his career, he won the Cup 6 times. He won it 4 times with the Leafs, twice with the Canadiens. He also won the gold medal in the Summit Series for Canada, and that I know it has nothing to do with the Leafs, but he did
It's a
do
nice
that.
nod. Yeah, for sure.
He was in the All-Star game every year.
Every
Year he was in the All-Star game. Now, the All-Star game was different because whoever won the cup, they played the All-Star team against the rest of the league. But he was in the All-Star game 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. Skipped a year, then 67, 68, all the way to 74. He was in the All-Star game every freaking year. He's the highest scoring left winger in Leafs history. And from what... Now this is me like reading, because obviously I didn't really watch him play. Like, this guy was just, for the time, he was a beast, and I think the reason he's not higher on Leafs lists is because it really was just recent where like their relationship became very damaged later on. He ended up leaving after the 67-68 season, or during it, he ended up leaving and going to the Red Wings, and he was with the Red Wings for a couple of years, then the Habs, and so on and so forth. But there was a very fractured, he wouldn't go to any Leafs events. Like, they treated him horrible. It was the Harold Ballard years and all this crap.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, he like his number was, I think, recently raised to the rafters, like really very recently. I think it was Brendan Shanahan. Like, that's how recent it was.
I did not realize
and
all
so there was a very fractured relationship. I wonder how much that kind of plays into the fact that he doesn't appear higher, because there's not a lot of love for him via the Leafs. And so, some of this, of course,
Leafs historians who
is like marketing. And but from what my grandpa tells me, and from what like other guys who watched him play, that he was like, to them, it's like my number one and then him. Like, they would rank number 1 and 2. So like, he's, in terms of a winger, they would say he's the best winger to ever play for the Leafs.
Wow, that's a lot of respect.
So I'm putting him on my number 3.
Yeah, I think there was a stat that I read that he almost became the second 50 goal scorer in league history. So
yes,
pretty impressive.
60-61. I think he had 48 goals.
Yes, you are correct. So not a bad thing to.
So I think our number 1 and number 2 are going to be the same.
I think so.
And I think we're going to have them ranked the same way too.
Do you?
I do.
Okay, who's your number 1 then?
My number 1 is Dave Keon.
It is mine as well.
Yeah. Dave Keon is the third highest scoring Leaf of all time. 858 points in 1,062 games, and only 75 penalty minutes.
Dang.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible.
Give him all the lady bings now.
I mean, well, like, Matt Sundin is our number 2. Yes. He has to be. Okay. Matt Sundin, not even on my... so, I mean, you think, like, Sundin, a guy who, he never fought. He wasn't involved, like... I think he fought Yager one time, which was a slapping match.
Right.
He had 748 penalty minutes in 981 games. In over 1,000 games, the guy had 75 penalty minutes.
That's crazy.
That's incredible. And I wonder if that just means that he fought 15 times. Like, did he ever take an actual penalty?
Right. I don't know. Wow. Dang, that's pretty freaking impressive.
It is very impressive. I think he won 4 Stanley Cups, and from what I've read and seen about the guy, like
He's got a Calder too.
We're talking about a guy. Yes,
yeah.
We're talking about a guy who was just the best player on the ice. I mean, hands down. Like, there's just so many people that say whenever he was on the ice, he was the best player out there, and. Yeah, other guys put up bigger numbers, but he was just the heart and soul of that team for a long time. I mean, even into the 80s, he's playing for the Hartford Whalers. He put up 62 points late in his career. I mean, the guy was he was only 5'9", 165 pounds.
Wow. Yeah, that's why he didn't take penalties, because he wasn't throwing elbows, because he couldn't reach guys.
That's true. And if you take away his 1980 season where he was 40 years old and he took 26 penalty minutes. He had 26 penalty minutes, so probably took 13 penalties. It was probably because he was slow as dirt because he was a minus 33 that year and then a minus 32 the next year. So, I mean, you take out those 26 penalty minutes in 80 games, and you're looking at a guy. I mean, the next highest penalty total is 12 minutes. That's impressive over the course of all those seasons.
Yeah, let's not remember that Hartford team too also had a very old Gordie Howe.
Yes, they did.
So
yes,
you had some aging players. You want to talk about an old team right there?
They were like the old timers game coming out there.
Yeah, really. But yeah, Sundin coming in at number 2 for me. This guy, I mean, he is like the most recent guy outside of, I think, like Austin Matthews. When you think of Leaf players, like he's synonymous with.
I mean,
the Maple
he was
Leafs.
with the Leafs for so long, like 15 seasons or something like that, and was the captain. And at the time, he was actually the first European to ever be a captain of a team.
Was he really?
Yeah, and at the time, there was a lot of hate towards him being the captain of the Leafs. There was a lot of prejudice.
That Canadian market, like we have to have a Canadian be a captain.
Weird, like so much prejudice against this guy because people said he was soft and all these things. It's like
I even remember when Max Pacioretty became captain of the Habs. Like people were giving him shit for that because he's American.
Because he's not French. Crazy, but I see it. Yeah, I mean, Matt Sundin to me, he's the guy. I just know that Dave Keon. I mean, 4 Stanley Cups. Not that I don't think that the fact the Leafs never won a cup with Sundin, definitely not Sundin's fault.
Right. Oh no,
the guy
absolutely
always put up big point totals, and I mean, even in a time where guys weren't putting up big totals. I mean, he really fell off his final year, but he was putting up. I mean, you look at these totals: 83, 94, 74, 83, 73, 74, 80, 72, 75, 78, 76, 78.
Consistency.
He was a lock for 70 points every year. Even in his last
goals.
year, in 41 games, he had 28 points.
Yeah.
So he still would have put up almost 60 points. And the guy was just a lock for 30 goals and a lock for 75 points. And he was always, in those like late 90s, early 2000s, he was always top 5 in the league in scoring. Always. Such a good player. I'll never forget, I think it was game 1. It was Leafs and Senators, and the Senators had beat up on the Leafs all regular season. Game goes to OT. Sundin just walks down the left side and lets a slap shot go right over the corner. It looked a lot like Yzerman's slap shot goal from the blue line, but it was just walked in, powerhouse shot, and just raised the stick, and off he skated. See ya.
See ya.
Pretty incredible. And actually, I think at one point he had the record for most overtime goals.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And in league history, I think eventually Joe Sakic took that lead. But anyways, there's our top 10 Toronto Maple Leafs. You may have an opinion about this, and we'd love to hear it. You can tweet at us at OT Hockey Talk. You can find us on Instagram, all that. And we trust that you will continue listening despite hating our list, or maybe you love it. You just love that I have Austin Matthews so high in there, because I thought about putting Mitch Marner on there just to make people mad.
Oh, boy.
Couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Our next team, Justin, who's our next team?
Well, we talked about it earlier, so I say let's just do it. Philadelphia Flyers.
Philadelphia Flyers.
Let's jump in.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. There'll be lots of penalty minutes involved in that one.
Oh, yes.
With the Broad Street Bullies. So looking forward to that, and we will talk to you guys soon. We're also, if you haven't checked out ranking of the Metropolitan and what's the other division?
Central.
The Central.
Yeah.
Metropolitan and the Central. Check that out, and it'll be coming in a few days too, is the ranking of the other divisions, the Atlantic and the Pacific. So they're out there somewhere, and you can just hit subscribe. You'll get all our episodes. It's a good time. We'll talk to you guys soon.